Okay, so this is how you basically set up a Hardhat project. I've already created a folder and have imported it into Visual Studio Code. Okay, so if you have a folder that you've created, this file, open folder, and then just select the folder that you have created for this project. But I have that right now. So we'll select terminal and a new terminal, and this will put us right into the directory that we're in. So the first thing you're going to need to do is type in npm init, and this will initialize a new node package manager project. So we'll just select that, and yeah, we just see version description. You can just basically leave these blank. Okay, and now we have a new package manager file. There's currently nothing in it. So install Hardhat. Just go through all the steps. So the second part is installing Hardhat into our project. Okay, and you'll see now that we have Hardhat here. And then we'll just run npx Hardhat. And this will create a new Hardhat project for us. Now we're going to choose a JavaScript project, and it's already selected, so you just hit enter. And then the root directory, and this is, we just want it in the directory that we're currently in, so we'll just hit enter. Yes, we'll add a git ignore, and then it'll install all these dependencies. Now, it's also good to install the some plugins, and there's one called Hardhat Toolbox, and we're just going to copy and paste that, and it also adds like ethers and stuff too. And this is found in the creating a new Hardhat project tutorial. So just paste that in and hit enter, and then let those basically install. Okay, and you'll see now that we have a whole bunch of different things here. Now, an important part also is that in this Hardhat config, you'll notice here that we have solidity 1.8.17. Now, this is important because this tells Hardhat which version of solidity you're using when you're creating your smart contract. So just a reference that this version here needs to be the same as the contract that you're writing. So the next thing that we need to do is that the test here, we'll just delete the test. That's a recycling bin. And then in the contracts, we'll just delete the contract because we're going to create our own. So we'll just delete. And then inside of the scripts for the deployment script, I would personally keep, the structure, but just remove this part here. So the only thing you have is just like the opening and closing braces to define the body of the main function for the deployment script, but just remove everything else. Okay, so far so good. Now what we're going to do now is build out the first contract that is in the example. So we have the hello world contract, and I'm just going to copy and paste this in. So we'll just right click here, create a new file, and then we call this hello world. console. And you'll see here it has like the little Ethereum thing. And then here is the first contract. So you have the license identifier. Every Solidity file is going to have that. You have the pragma statement, which this just basically says to import the Solidity version 0.8.17, and also take into account here that in this hardhat.config.js file, you also have 0.1.8.17, so it matches up. This defines the creation of the contract and the contract's name. Inside the body of the contract, you'll see here that we have these opening closing braces. So now anything in here is the body of the contract. And we just have a function called hello world. It's a public function, meaning that anybody can interact with it. It's pure, and I always forget what the explanation of pure is. So that should be like a research part on your own. And it returns a string, and all strings have this memory keyword associated with it. And then it just returns a hello world to the console. Okay, so that part is great. So now that we have that, we can go ahead and compile this smart contract. So let's save this. And then we will type in npx hardhat compile. Okay, so we successfully compiled that smart contract. And now we can actually create a deployment script for it. So what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to go in and I'm going to take the first part. So let's go into our deployment script. And then inside the body of this main, I'm going to just paste this in. So this is a variable for our hello world. We accessed Ether's get contract factory and hello world. So the contract factory is basically this artifact. So if we go into our contracts here, you'll see we have this hello world.json, and this hello world.json file is the contract's ABI. And you'll see here that it actually has a name, hello world. It has a string as its internal type, and basically it returns a string. Its state mutability is pure, and research pure and all these other different ones. That would be a good test for you. Okay, so here we have the actual interaction with the hello world contract. In the next step, we deploy this smart contract to the blockchain. It will display the address of the hello world contract, and we also wanted to display hello world. So we'll just go down here, and then hello world itself, so this deployed contract also has a function named hello world. Okay. So we'll save this, and then inside of the deploying part of the tutorial, I think it's just npx hardhat node. Okay, so now that we have npx hardhat node, we can go back in here. I'll just clear this. And then we'll deploy this script. Okay, so we have the address, and why isn't it displaying? Let's look at our contract. It's public, return, hello world. Okay. Okay, so what we need to do here is in our deploy script, let's create const return value equals await, and then we'll pass in this here. And then inside of here, we will copy and paste this. And then we can just clear and then redeploy the script. And there we go. Okay. So now we have deployed our hello world script. We call the function stored into a variable named return value, and then display that return value to the screen. Okay, so now that we have that, the second part of, so we have the deployment script, we have the hello world contract, and we have the hello world contract in the deployment script, and have it displaying to the screen. Okay, so the next part was to create a manager class. So we'll go into contracts, we'll right click. Oh, actually we have a test. So inside of our testing folder, we'll create a new file. We'll call it hello world.test.js, and I'm going to just copy and paste this test in here. This test has a few pieces to it. So the first part of this test here is that you're importing the chai library, and this is what you're going to use for testing. So here we describe that this is the hello world, test, and then we create a function, and this is just referring to the actual, hello world contract that we have. So this is defined here, and then we get the contract factory for hello world. So we're interacting with the contract itself, and since it's named hello world, we just say get the contract for hello world. Then we have this hello world test that we have defined, and we await the deployment of the hello world contract. And then just making sure that that succeeds, and if it does, then we can basically go into our test. So here we just define what the name of the test case is going to be, and then we basically store a value. So here we have the hello world.test hello world, and this is the function that returns the string. So now we can say that this hello world test hello world to string, so whatever is returned from this hello world function needs to equal hello world. Okay. So now that we have that, we can actually run the test, and this is just npx hardhat test, and this should pass. Okay, and if we change this to just say hello, and save this and rerun our test, it should fail. Okay, and it fails because it returns hello world and we just have hello. So if we put our world back in here, save, and rerun our test, it's passing. Okay, great. So the last part of this was to have the bonus part was to have a smart contract that could talk to the hello world and call a function on its behalf. So we'll right click, create a new file, and then we're going to call this manager.sol. And then I'm just going to copy and paste the completed contract. So I'm just going to copy this, paste that in here. So we have the license defining the license type of the contract, the pragma for the import of the solidity version that we're going to use. So this is 0.8.17. We import the hello world smart contract because we want to interact with it, and this contract needs to know what that is. So we have an import statement for that solidity smart contract, and then we define the contract's name called manager. This is basically a type, right? So this is the hello world contract, public, and then we give it a variable name, which is hello world contract. And inside of the constructor, so every class has a constructor, and this can be used for supplying information to a contract that it needs in order to perform a particular operation. And in this case, we want to pass the address of the hello world smart contract because the manager is going to call hello world from this hello world contracts function. So we pass in the smart contract address as a parameter in the constructor. We populate hello world with the smart contract address, right? So this knows or can talk to this hello world. We pass that into a variable. And now inside of the manager, it has a function called doStuff, which returns a string. And we call return hello world contract. So now this is the hello world contract dot hello world. So we're calling and executing the hello world's function inside of the manager. Okay. So we can save that. And then we'll run Hardhat compile. Okay. And now what we want to do is we want to update our deployment script. So what we're going to do here is that we'll go into this deploy. And what we'll do here is just add in the other parts. And we can just say return value manager. And then we can just update this to return value manager instead. Okay, so now we have this manager object. So we get the contract factory for the manager, right? It's the same name as the class. And then we deploy the manager smart contract. But the difference here is that inside of the constructor, when we created our manager file, notice here that it needed an address in hello world. So inside of our deployment script, we say that once this part here is successful, take the hello world address and pass it as a dependency for the manager. And then we display the manager's address, and then we call the manager's do stuff, which, remember, this do stuff function is actually calling the hello world function. We return that value, and then we log it out to the console. Okay, so now we can just go up, and we can run the npx hardhat run and that deploy script. We hit enter. Oops, I didn't save it, so I need to save it. It was running the original test, so we'll just run this again. There we go. And that's basically it. If you can get yourself through all of that, then you're going to be in good shape for your interview tomorrow. Good luck.